Right, can people hear me? Yes. Right. Apparently I've got 10 minutes, so let me start the clock. Alright, very simply, my job is to give an overview of where religion fits into African history. For those people that don't know, ancient Egypt used to be black. Now just let that thought sink in. What it is, when people visit Egypt today, and they say, we met some Egyptians. No, you didn't. You either met Arabs in Egypt, or you met Turks in Egypt. And it's not just Egypt, the whole of North Africa was conquered by Arabians and Turks in the Middle Ages. The starting date that the invaders moved into North Africa was December 639 AD. And what that means is everything before that date is actually black history. Now, the ancient Egyptians are very, very important in the origin and the evolution of religion. Now, we all know that the Bible speaks very negatively about the ancient Egyptians. But when we actually look at what the Egyptians contributed to ancient knowledge, and what they contributed to ancient religion, and what they contributed to ancient science, it's an awful lot. Let me break some of it down. The ancient Egyptians did a great deal to preserve the knowledge of the gods and goddesses of inner Africa. So some of the gods and goddesses that people assume are Egyptian, such as the goddess Ma'at, such as the god Osiris, or to give an African Set, Osar. These are actually deities that come from inner Africa, from the region of the Sudan, all the way down to what is now Uganda. So the Egyptians did a great deal to preserve that heritage, and in doing so, they enable us to write the earliest known developments of religion. The Egyptians themselves put down a body of writings called the pyramid texts, and the pyramid texts are carved on the inside of Pharaoh Unis's pyramid. He was a pharaoh of the 5th ruling dynasty. There's some controversy over when he reigned. Conservative chronologists will say 2200 BC. I say 4200 BC. And so with the pyramid text, we have the world's first scripture. And this is the same document that evolves into the coffin texts, and then it eventually evolves into a document that was buried with people. And because it was buried with people, it earned the nickname, the Book of the Dead. The African name, what we used to call it, was Peret Em Heru. And Peret Em Heru means coming forth during the day.
Let's switch your mic for a minute.
Yeah, please switch it. It's been going now.
Is that clear on? Okay. Now with ancient Egypt, again, you now have also the link between the Nile Valley traditions, which connects Uganda, Sudan, and Egypt. Scholars have shown links between that and the Yoruba tradition. There was a Nigerian churchman, the Reverend Olumide Lucas, whose doctorate thesis in 1948 presented at London University was to show the similarity between ancient Egypt and Yoruba, and therefore show the similarities in terms of the deities, the belief systems, and so on. There's an African-American professor, his name is Charles S. Finch, who has shown the similarities between what the ancient Egyptians believed and what the Dogon believed. And the Dogon are in the Bandiagara cliffs, and we have someone here representing the Dogon tradition. And people have spotted the similarities. By the time the ancient Greeks come on the world scene, they speak about their gods of Mount Olympus. And then we find out some of their gods like Zeus. You know Zeus? Yeah. Is actually the ancient Egyptian Sudanese deity Amen. Something people think that should be pronounced Amun. The ancient Greek goddess Demeter is really the ancient Egyptian Sudanese deity Isis. The ancient Greek deity Athena is really the ancient Egyptian and Libyan deity Neith. The ancient Greek god Hercules or Heracles is really the ancient Egyptian Sudanese deity Khonsu. And so what we then see then is the gods of the ancient world are actually derived from what was going on in inner Africa. We're understanding this. And not only that, when we get slave trade reports, there's the Portuguese that are slave raped into West Africa, and they came across the kingdom of Benin in West Africa. Benin is where Nigeria is today. And they came across the kingdom of Benin. They swapped envoys, and the priest that the Benin sent back to Europe once they exchanged envoys was the priest of the deity Olokun. And then in European records, he's described as the priest of Poseidon. So therefore we know that Olokun, Poseidon, Neptune, again, is the same deity. Are we understanding this? Right, now moving on to Africa and the history of Judaism. We are in that history. In 1911, there was an archaeologist, the Reverend A.H. Sayce, discovered a synagogue on Elephantine Island. Now, Elephantine Island is the border between ancient Egypt and ancient Nubia. And therefore, the Jews that were on Elephantine Island who built that synagogue discovered in 1911 were almost certainly black. Now just let that sink in. Now we also have an African history in Christianity. Now most people think that Christianity is just a religion brought to Africa by slave traders. And while that is true, there is a lot of slave trading history where Christianity was brought to Africa by slave traders. There's also an indigenous African history that is Christian. There were civilizations in North Africa such as Carthage and Numidia. Again, these were black civilizations, pre-Arab civilizations. And one of the first of the Christian martyrs was a black woman called Felicitas. There was another one called Namfamo, there's another one called Saint Perpetua. So when you hear of the Romans feeding Christians to the lions, simple question, which continent is lions, please? Which continent? Anyone know? So, and not only that, the ruins of the Roman amphitheatres are in Africa to this day. Just let that sink in. And therefore there's a whole history here. One of our great scholars is a gentleman, Professor John Coleman de Graaf Johnson, who wrote a book called African Glory, and he has a whole section on the African church. Now in the origin and evolution of Islam, we also have a history there too. During the birth of Islam, during the time of the Prophet, things were hotting up in Arabia, and the Prophet and his followers had to leave. And then in the Quran it says something about being welcomed by King Negus of Ethiopia. Now King Negus, there's no such person as King Negus. It's a bit like in the Bible it speaks of King Pharaoh of Egypt. They're all pharaohs. Same thing. In Ethiopia they're all Neguses, or to use the term Negus Negaste, King of Kings. The one that they're talking about is Emperor Amma. And Emperor Amma...
Just 1 minute left.
I've actually got 1.5 minutes here.
I'm sure it's 1 minute, but it will be present.
Okay.
4 o'clock here.
Yes, all right. Then you also have, of course, how far did I get? Emperor Amma. And you also have the fact that Mecca, the building, you've got a building behind the veil. I was doing some research, and I came across this. This is worth it, trust me. I was doing some research, I came across an Islamic website, and they were explaining who built Mecca. And this is what we read about who built it. In 630 CE, Muhammad's army reconquered the city of Mecca from the Banu Quraysh tribe. The holy sanctuary of Kaaba was rebuilt and rededicated to Islam. The reconstruction being carried out before Muhammad's death in 632 CE by a shipwrecked Abyssinian carpenter in his native style. Now just let that one sink in. Alright, so I think that's me out of time. Okay.